This is why Alex is not here, forcing her to talk. You didn't know that Natsuki could talk this much, right? Hey everybody, welcome back to Small Talk Japan. On this show, we talk about what's new every week in Japan. My name is Mitch, this is my co-host.
Natsuki.
Today, no Alex, because we're going to do every other week, I think. Natsuki this week, Alex next week.
Okay.
Natsuki next week.
I miss Alex.
Well, you know, when Alex is here, Natsuki, you don't talk.
I do.
No, you don't. You say, yeah, that's right. And then you just sit there.
Because he says everything I wanted to say beforehand.
Shots fired, Alex. She's blaming you for that. All right, guys, today we got a great show. We're going to talk about various topics, but we're going to start today with a TikTok video that went viral this last week, I think on Monday or Tuesday or something like that. First of all, let's just roll it, Josh, and let's take a look. The TikToker's name is...
Pudding Puru Puru.
Pudding Puru Puru. Okay, let's go ahead and play it.
Sounds yummy.
Okay, what the fuck is this, Japan? I had to start recording
How
because
did
it's
you
getting
find
worse and worse. They're explaining what's going on in Afghanistan through like cartoons. Like here's their rendition of 9/11.
So I found this because it went viral. It went all over the place. It was like on Reddit, it was on Facebook, Twitter, everything.
Oh, okay.
As like super evil looking, like both like smiling as they like shoot each other. And
Okay, let's start it out. So basically, what this TikTok video displays is there's a Japanese news station, and they decided to explain the whole war on terror in the West versus, you know, Afghanistan and, you know, various bad guy entities. And then they decided to display it using caricatures. And one of the things that they did in the show is instead of saying, you know, like America versus like, you know, the war on terror or terrorists or whatever, they were like America kun. And I think they call it Afghanistan kun, was like the way that they explained it. So you're dumbing down. I mean, the war on terror is pretty dumb to begin with, but you know, they're explaining it to the Japanese population as though they're 5 years old. And it was like this TikToker got very, very offended by this. Natsuki, after watching that video, what did you think?
Yeah, to be honest, I thought that's very easy to understand. That basic thing, you know, because that TV shows actually watches only like, you know, housewives or only maybe housewives. It's not a serious news, you know, program. But
right.
Anyway, so like most of the, you know, viewers don't understand what's going on between, you know, America and Afghanistan. So they wanted to tell them like very easy way.
Yeah.
So that's how they got that, you know, those kind of cartoons. So was kind of understand. But the other hand, you know, I feel kind of sorry for the two countries. Like we are not trying to make fun of them, you know?
Yeah, I whenever there's something that's like really like racist or really like offensive on Japanese TV, it's almost always not intentional. That they just did it like, so I used to be on TV, right? And so I know the decision process. Like there's usually a bunch of old men in a room and they're like, oh, I have an idea, especially in television because, you know, the guys who are on top, no one really challenges them. So the producer or the director of the show probably said, hey, let's do this. And then everybody, without really thinking about it, probably just agreed to do it.
Yeah.
And like you said, they were probably trying to make a kind of complicated, very long, historically long story into something that anybody could understand.
Mm-hmm.
But there needs to be some standards as to what goes on TV. We were talking before the show. If they were explaining World War II as like Nippon-chan and America-kun, like kenka shichatta, like if they were explaining it like, little Japan and little America went to war, it would be really offensive.
Yeah. Yeah. If that happened, many Japanese people will piss off.
Right. And so it's just I don't want anybody watching this show to feel like, like Japanese people are in this particular case, we're trying to be racist or offensive or whatever. It's really just that the shit that goes on television here is ridiculous sometimes. And this just being a perfect example of how to not take a historically important, significant event seriously. And again, probably with good intentions, just try to explain it to people who don't understand it. But man, it's just so bad.
Yeah, because most of the show's viewers think that the news doesn't relate with them.
Yeah.
It's like, far away things
Yeah.
from them. That's why we can watch it.
There's actually, I think that mentality is pretty strong here in Japan. It's like whenever there's a problem around the world, a lot of people, I mean, I guess this is probably similar anywhere,
Yeah.
but it's like, oh, that's a problem over there.
Yeah,
we don't need to
exactly.
think about it here.
Right.
So
Yeah, heiwa boke. That's what we call.
Heiwa boke means like it's a peaceful era, and so everybody bokeru is like you just become like dumb.
Right.
You just like you don't think about
Right,
anything because
right,
you're just
right.
like everything's just so. I mean, hey, you could relate. I always think of like if you watch the Lord of the Rings, I always think that Japanese people are basically the hobbits. Love food, live in a very peaceful little place that's not.
That's not a good way to
What? I love
explain-
the hobbits. They're like
I
they're
shouldn't say thank you.
The hobbits are the heroes of that story.
Okay.
But anyway, and the reason why I think this is one of our friends actually told me this. A Japanese lady. She's a nerd. She's like, when I watch the Lord of the Rings, I think the Japanese people are the hobbits. I'm not talking about height here. I'm talking about culturally. They love food. They're very like closed community.
Okay.
Everybody's the same. I'm serious. And so like there's kind of like this feeling like even in Lord of the Rings when all this bad stuff was happening somewhere else, like a lot of the hobbits were like, that's not our problem. And that does happen here. It's like whenever there's an international issue or whatever, a lot of Japanese people just say, well, it's not in Japan, so we don't care.
Right. It's not our problem, right?
But I mean that happens everywhere. Let's move on to our next topic. Our next topic is really quite like interesting. And I want to ask your opinion on this. Is the title, this comes from asahi.com, and we'll put all the links for all of these articles that we're talking about in our description of this video. But this comes from asahi.com, and the title reads, Disabled Women Harassed While Riding Trains Call for Policy Change. And just to give you a quick overview of what this is talking about, whenever a disabled rider, so think of somebody in a wheelchair, gets on a train, especially in like large areas like Tokyo or Osaka or something like that, the rail staff announce on the speaker that there is a person on like the car number that they're riding on and their destination, and it's not to be it's not to be negative in any way. It's actually so that the train staff know that there's someone who's special needs that's on the car and that they need to be aware of that and they need to take care of them. And some train stations don't provide wheelchair ramps because Japan just kind of was like, there's a lot of historical places that are really old that weren't fitted for access for everybody. What do you guys call it? Barrier free. And so some places, especially in Tokyo and Osaka, that if you are on a wheelchair, it's really difficult for you to get around in those areas. And so the staff need to be aware of that. They need to help the people. But what is happening, according to these reports from some of these women, and 12 of them, they interviewed 30 of them for this inside this report, but 12 of them shared stories of when these women, because this is a sexual harassment thing, when the staff announce that they're on, like car 5 with the destination of Shinjuku, for example, sometimes other passengers on the train find that as an opportunity to go and harass them because they're kind of vulnerable because they can't really run away. And they know where they are because they announced the train number. and they know the destination that they're getting off at because they've said all this on the speaker. So these disabled women have asked the train companies to stop doing that, or if they do it, to do it in a way that the passengers don't understand what they're saying. But the response was, which was before one of the complaints that one of these women said, the response was, it says, victims have demanded in the past that railway corporations and station staffers ensure the information being shared is not heard by others, but they are typically met with negative responses such as, you cannot ride if that is so. So basically, they shut them down, like saying, well, if you don't want us to tell everybody that you're disabled, then don't ride the train. It's kind of been the response. Natsuki, as a woman, I mean, this is where we live in our particular area. I don't think this is a problem because we're not that urban. But as a woman who reads the story, how do you feel about this?
I was so shocked. I never imagined such a thing happened on, those women.
Yeah.
And then I read the news, and then some of them become real stalker.
Yeah.
After they get out of the station, they follow them.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
So, again, I don't want to hurt the image of Japan or anything. Like,
Yeah.
no matter what country you go in, when you're in public transportation, there's always a weird person
Oh, okay.
on the train. Doesn't matter
Okay.
what country you're in, there's always the weirdo. And in Osaka or in Tokyo, when there's hundreds and hundreds of people on every single train,
Right.
and if you're, constantly having to take the train to go to work, chances are you're going to find some weird people.
Right.
And in the past, there have been problems with sexual harassment on trains, and that's why if you go to the larger cities in Japan, they have what's known as women-only trains. And basically, because during rush hour, I mean, this is less of a problem during the pandemic, but normal times during rush hour, they literally push you into the train. And so you're basically like sardines in a can. You can't move. And so you can imagine if you're in this situation and if you got a pervert and you're pressed up against a bunch of women, sometimes those perverts their hands would start to wander and touch these people and stuff like that. So what their solution to this, and I think they started this about 10 years ago, was to make female only trains, especially during rush hour. And so there's no guys on these cars. But this is different. This is even more sinister, is that these people are disabled, so they can't run away.
Right. Nightmare.
Right. And it says one of the particular stories was really egregious. This woman says, a man in a suit approached her while she was near the train doors and said, "I've found you here."
Oh my goodness.
Could you imagine that?
Oh my, so scary, and I feel. Oh my god, you're making me sick.
Like, imagine you're disabled, you're a female, you're disabled, you're in a wheelchair, you're sitting there, it's easy to spot you. They've announced on the speaker, you're on train 5, and then some fucking weirdo comes over behind you and says, "I've found you."
Oh my god.
Right? That's just
The
fucking...
scary movie.
So, yeah, I mean, there's other ones, accounts in here that aren't so bad. Like, for example, like one lady got told, like, "Why are you going to Shinjuku at this time?" That kind of thing. Just like chatting to them. But like, that wouldn't happen to like a normal passenger, and that wouldn't happen if they didn't announce their location and their destination.
Yeah.
It just basically becomes a privacy issue. And I think that the reason, I mean, this is easily fixable, right? All you need to do is stop announcing over the speakers where they are, get wireless headsets, and just talk to each other, the staff, in their ears. Problem solved. But we've talked about this before on the show, but like, especially Japanese organizations, when they have a set rule or a set way, they just keep doing it.
Right.
And they don't want to change.
No.
And this is just one of those situations.
That's one of the big problem in Japan. They don't want, the normal, train stuffs, what I mean of like big problem is no one wants to take a responsibility.
Right.
That's why they don't want to change the things.
Right.
So they just wanna,
Keep doing the same.
keep doing the same. Politicians said too, like everyone, they don't want to take a responsibility.
Because if you change something, it's a risk, right? You might fail.
Right.
And if you fail, it's like, well,
Right. And sometimes people think those, disabled women are the problem. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, they're like, oh, so, yeah. So that happens a lot. Victim blaming. where these-
Victim blaming.
So these people in the train, who are victimized by these creeps, they'll be like, oh, well, why are you riding the train?
Right.
It's like, fuck you. Like, these people are people. They should be able to. Anyway, so the end of this story, again, you can click on this in our description and you can check it out. A ministry representative of the public, there's a ministry for public transportation in Japan. And the representative said, it is totally unacceptable that some people misuse measures taken for safety. Railroad companies should take steps as early as possible to devise means to enable all passengers to ride trains securely. So the ministry now is in favor of changing things. It just comes down to the companies, are they going to do it? But now this is becoming news, and I hope this becomes even bigger news. I hope that they do change it, because what a shitty situation for those poor women.
If something big happen, it will change quickly.
That's the thing, and that happens in every country. You
Right.
gotta wait for a tragedy
Right.
before you move. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Anyway, I hope that they change soon. Let's go to our next story today. This is a positive, very positive story. Japan's centennials hit record 86,500 with 10,000 plus men for the first time. So this year, pandemic, guys. I mean, we're the elderly people are very, very vulnerable. And even in that situation, Japan centennials hit a record. And if you don't know what a centennial is, it's somebody who's 100 years old or older.
I googled it.
You Googled it.
New word, thank you.
Well, century means cent is 100. Century means 100 years. And centennial or centenarian means a person who's over 100 years old. So let's talk about this. Why do you think this is? Why do you think that Japanese people live so long?
Medications are good.
There's medications everywhere.
Okay. They eat healthy.
I think that's one big thing. Eat healthy, stay active.
Stay active.
I think, in America, like, people go into like retirement homes when they're like in their 70s.
I saw the documentary, and then there is a, like a retirement home for like elderly in Florida.
Yeah.
It's like a city.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, only old people live there. They play golf every day.
Yeah, there's a nickname for Florida. It's called God's Waiting Room. So, like, all the old people in Florida just waiting to die.
Yeah, that was surprising. Like, everybody does, golf or exercise together. Only old people live there.
So that's okay, but that's like people who are old with money, and that's cool. But like a lot of times, what happens is like,
it takes money. It
of course
costs money.
it does. Of course it does.
Uh-huh.
Everything in America is about money. But in Japan, what really surprises me is bachan, right? Like, I have friends who their grandmas who are in their 90s, they live by themselves.
Okay.
They go to the supermarket every day, cook, clean, take care of shit. Some of them farm. And you're like, you're in your 90s. And they're like, oh, it's fine. Ha, ha, ha. I'm like, what happened? I think it's they stay active.
Yeah, and then they look young.
Yeah, compared to the West, for
Right.
sure. Natsuki, your grandma, is she still?
Yeah, she's still alive, but she needs hospitalized.
She needs care.
She needs care.
How old is she now?
95.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
My Japanese grandma lived to be, I think, about 90 something. In 86. Sorry, 86.
Is she still, she can do everything by herself?
Until she passed away, she was pretty active, but she had a stroke.
Oh, okay.
And so suddenly passed away. But until then, she was pretty active. But my white side, my English side of the family, they all died before they hit. I think my father died when he was 50.
Okay.
My grandfather died when he was in his 50s. My grandmother on that side died when she was before 60s. So it's like 58 or 59 or something.
Why?
They all died of cancer.
They ate bad things.
Well, they were all really fat. But I think
Okay.
what it was is I think that the area which they grew up in, West Virginia, I think there was a lot of pollution. And so they got a lot of, cancer or whatever. So they all died really young. But my Japanese side, everybody's, long life. So...
But your Japanese side grandma was living in America, right? Florida, right?
So she was doing what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for her stroke, I think she would have lived a long time. Although I would say that my my mother's father is also English heritage, and I want to say he's 97 now. He's Alzheimer's,
Oh, okay.
but he's still like his body is still good.
Yeah, so it's not about food. My point is,
But Japanese live so long, especially people in Okinawa live a long, long time.
yeah, and then their mentality is kind of like free. They don't
Yeah.
care about bad things and like naru yo ni naru sa. It's like
It's like whatever will be, will be.
Yeah, yeah, like que sera sera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that if you guys ever come to Japan, you'll notice is like the bachan, that when they get to a certain age, they just dye their hair pink and purple.
Right.
And they're like, fuck it, let's live our lives.
Mhm.
Let's go to our next story. It's about southwestern Japan, volcano erupts, alert level raised. Natsuki, this is a volcano that's on this is Otake on the Suwanose Island.
Yeah, it's quite far away from here, right?
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? So like, I'm from Vegas, so we don't have volcanoes.
Mm-hmm.
Or, the area in Nevada that I'm from had volcanoes, but it was like millions of years ago.
Okay.
Japan has active volcanoes. We live right next to Sakurajima.
Yeah.
What is the mentality? What's the feeling on volcanoes in Japan?
It's just there. Always erupting. So
It's just a thing.
yeah, it's just a thing. So we don't get fear even though it's, erupt. Of course, if it has like big eruption, maybe we'll get scared, but like it's always happening. So
Yeah.
it's not a big news.
It's not something to really think about.
Right, right.
When I used to be on TV, like about once a week, they'd talk about some new volcano erupting or whatever. It's usually not news unless people die.
Mm-hmm.
There was a volcano, I forgot the name of it, but there was a volcano some years back that was sleeping,
Yeah.
and people were climbing to the top of it normally. And then one day it just like the top of it blew up. And I think it killed some of the hikers or whatever.
So this time, this thing, southern western Japan volcano erupts
Yeah.
become a big news is because at the almost same time, there was an earthquake in the north area of Japan.
Yeah.
That's why it becomes a big news, right?
And a tsunami warning and stuff like that. Because it's all connected, right?
Right.
Dude, I remember after 3/11 when we had the big Tohoku earthquake up in, the Tohoku region near Tokyo. Sakurajima here, which is on the other side of the country, was acting strangely for a couple of days, and they were saying on the news like we're monitoring the volcano to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
It really makes you feel like, wow, we are just these small little animals living on this living planet.
Mm.
We are so small, but
So the なんだっけ研究者 how do you say 研究 prospector じゃなくてexperts expert
this is why Alex is not here, forcing her to talk. You didn't know that Nazi could talk this much, right? Oh yeah. Okay. So the
Thank you.
expert, yeah.
Okay, experts were saying that some big earthquake might happen in next 6 months.
Yeah.
So we should be aware
Yeah.
from.
And have you done something to
Earthquake.
prepare for an earthquake?
You know what? I have a backpack for emergency backpack now.
Oh, nice.
Yes, because the company that I work for,
Yeah.
and our room is going to be clean,
Yeah.
and then we need to throw away the things that we don't need.
Yeah.
And then there were a lot of emergency backpack in the room, and
Yeah.
then they said they will throw them away. So I thought that's what a waste, and then can I keep it?
So you didn't prepare an emergency backpack, you just stole one from work.
Right. Do you want one? I can get you one.
You gotta be careful because the stuff that are inside those backpacks, they need to be replaced every like 1 or 2 years. Or something.
Yeah. Because there was some water in the
Yeah.
backpack and some what we call is kampan. You know what a kampan is?
No.
Kampan is like very hard like bread. It's in the
Oh.
can.
Okay, so it's basically a ration. We'd probably say in English. like food that you can eat
Right.
that lasts a long time.
Right. But even though it lasts a long time, but it will expire next month. I mean next year.
Yeah. So you got to replace that stuff.
Right.
After 311, I made a backpack too, and then I forgot about it. And then like several years later, I found it again. I was like, oh, and everything was bad. So I had to throw it away.
How did you repair for yourself? I mean,
Prepare?
Yeah, prepare for yourself. You bought the whole, backpack thing, everything in there,
So
or
at that time, because it was right after the earthquake, there were no, like, you couldn't just buy a backpack. You had to
Okay.
make one.
okay.
And like, I was watching a TV program. They're like, I forgot what they recommend. They're like bottled water and then calorie mate,
Oh, okay.
which basically like, it's like basically like carbohydrates in a vacuum sealed bag. It's like, think of it as like a gross chocolate bar, calorie mate though. And it lasts like 2 years or something like that.
What things are in my, the backpack was disposable toilet,
Yeah.
and it's like, and other thing was like body salon wrap. Is my English okay?
Like basically like a blanket.
Blanket,
that
but
you
it
can
made of like army oil.
get. Yeah. Well, thermal blanket is what they're called.
Oh, okay,
blanket,
thermal
yeah.
blanket, and some food, some globe, things like that.
Yeah, I was watching the news program like years ago, and they explained all the things that you should have. Gloves were for if there's damage to your building and you have to like move stuff or you have to find somebody or something like that. That's why you have gloves in there. But yeah, it's they recommend everybody make one, but I don't know anybody except for you that has one.
Right.
All right, let's go to our last story today. It's going to be our main story today. It's going to be Japan's LDP kicks off leadership election. So if you guys didn't know this, there's the current prime minister. Let's call him Suga-chan. Suga-chan.
Mr. Suga.
Mr. Suga-chan. He. First of all, before I say anything, Natsuki, what do you think about our current prime minister, Mr. Suga?
He did a good job. Not politically, but he did. He took after,
Abe.
Abe, and to me, everybody pushed him that people don't, the things they don't want to do.
Yeah.
So he's a victim, I guess.
This often happens in politics here in Japan, guys. It's like somebody who's like, oh, I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to be a leader. Oh, you guys forced me to be a leader. Oh, I'm so kawaii so. And then they do a shit job. And when they leave, it's like, oh, we feel so sad for him because he tried his best.
And then that's why he quit so early.
Nah, he quit because he sucks. So Suga, so if you guys didn't follow the politics in Japan, Abe, who was the longest serving prime minister of all time, was prime minister twice. I think, right?
Yeah, he did.
Twice.
Mm-hmm.
His big thing, and he was going to go out on the top, is what his plan was before the pandemic, because he was going to be the prime minister that was, seeing over the Olympics in Tokyo in 2020. And, even to the point where when they made the national commercial for the Olympics, Abe was the guy that jumped out of the Mario pipe right at the end. And he had a Mario costume on and stuff like that. And so he was really looking forward to the end of his administration just going out on a bang. Then the pandemic happened and a bunch of bad things happened. And then his tummy hurt. I'm not fucking around, guys. Abe's reason for quitting prime minister was because his tummy hurt.
Before, right?
No,
and then he came back.
This time too.
This time too. So maybe his old illness will back.
His tummy hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And
his
so, and then his right-hand man, which was Suga, became prime minister. So Natsuki's right. He was kind of like pushed into it, but I mean, he willingly accepted this. As prime minister, Suga hasn't really been great, and he's neither good nor bad. He just kind of bleh. He's just like no leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he talks in front of the media, people just roll their eyes. They're like, oh God, he's talking again. He's just kind of like an in-between person, and everyone knows that. Just waiting for him to go to the next person.
Right.
And his handling of the pandemic has been, in my eyes, shit. Now, this is coming from America, where America really fucked up the pandemic too. But Suga had an opportunity in the middle of this year to really turn things around. But the way that they administered the vaccines in this country was absolutely insane. It was so slow for so long. Now, we can report that the vaccination rate in Japan is actually higher than that of America, and it's approaching the countries like France, which is good. But it took for fucking ever to get to this point. And while we're just, because what they did is America was like old people first and then free for all. Like just get vaccinated, go anywhere, go to CVS, the drugstore, whatever. Suga-chan's plan was, Suga-chan's number 2 is Mr. Kono's plan was, let's all send out paper reservations to all the people living in Japan, all the adults, it's like 100 million people, paper reservations, have them send back those paper reservations and book appointments for the vaccines. People are still sending in papers right now. It's fucking retarded. And you're just like, why? And then in various different prefectures, they're like, okay, we need to open up vaccinations for everybody, hurry this process up. So they did that. They ran out of stock because they didn't have enough vaccines, because they didn't bid for it.
Maybe all the people did, paper, reservation, but young generation do with, smartphones.
How did you reserve your vaccine?
Paper come to my house, and then there was a QR code, so I read it, and then I made a reservation. It's a stupid thing.
It's stupid.
Oh, okay.
So now, no country has done this perfect, but Japan has especially done this in the most ridiculous, most Japanese way you could possibly imagine.
Okay.
The vaccine was so slow. People are still not vaccinated now. I mean,
No.
people who want to get vaccinated. In America, people who aren't vaccinated are the dumbasses who don't want to get vaccinated, and shame on you for being stupid. But in Japan, there's a lot of people, especially young people, that want to get vaccinated that are just waiting around to get vaccinated.
Did you see the news of, the Shibuya area?
Yeah.
And, young people made a long
Yeah.
line for the vaccination.
And you know what? These idiots in the government, they were surprised. They're like, oh, young people want to get vaccinated?
Right, that was stupid.
And you're like, yeah, they want to go back to their normal lives.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Suga sucks. And and so he's getting replaced. And so right now there's a runoff election for the spot of being prime minister. And there's 4 candidates. And before the show, because, I try to stay out of politics mostly because I don't vote. And I'm just generally critical of the government here. But I asked Natsuki, I was like, can you find out what the public opinion is on these 4 candidates? So we've got Kono, Kishida, Takaichi, and Noda.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us, Natsuki, what do people feel about these candidates?
Don't make me humiliate in front of people, okay?
No, just tell me the honest. Do you...
Okay. To be honest, I cannot tell the differences, between those 4 people. And then I thought, I knew that you're gonna ask me some, opinions about them. So I asked my friends what they think about them, and then nobody can answer it.
No one knows, right?
No one knows. And then, I know the in public opinion, everybody's number one favorite is Mr. Kono.
And why?
Because he appears on TV a lot. And then rest of them, especially women's, yeah, of course I know the face and name, but I don't know what they are doing.
So Kono, and I think this is ridiculous, if he becomes the 100th, because the next prime minister will be number 100. If he becomes prime minister, I'm going to seriously be annoyed because he's in charge of the vaccine rollout in Japan, which I think has been a disaster. I'm very critical of this guy. But like you said, he's always on TV.
Mm-hmm. And then, he appeals himself to the young generation.
Right.
So he uses, easy word to understand what, he wants to do. That's why, TV wanted him to appear on,
So...
But still...
Now, Kono, one good thing about Kono, which I researched before the show, is that he's in support of gay marriage. But if you guys don't know this, if you're from Western countries where gay marriage is just okay, in Japan, there's no gay marriage. And so there's also there's a TED talk on this, guys, if you want to search gay TED X Tokyo talk, where a member of the LGBT community talks about how they don't have rights. When their partners go to the hospital, or when they pass away, or when there's emergencies and stuff like that, their partners don't have any rights because they're not married.
Right.
And so there's no marriage in this country for members of the LGBTQ community, and Kono does support that, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just think that if you're looking at him and saying he's the guy that's in charge of the vaccine rollout in Japan and how bad it's been and how stupid it's been, I just don't think that. But he'll probably be the next prime minister, right?
Hey, is young generation in America go to election?
They did this last time because of how Trump was just such a, what would be the word for him? I mean, you guys at home, you know my opinion on Trump. I think he's a monster. I think he's absolutely a psychopath and doesn't have any feelings for other people and just does whatever he wants to do for him. And I don't think he cares that 600,000 Americans died from the pandemic. He's just an awful person. And in the last election, there was a division, a huge separation between those who. It wasn't even about Biden. I don't think anybody went to the polls in the last election saying, I really like Biden. No one felt that way.
Okay.
It was voting for Trump or voting against Trump.
So he is kind of like Mr. Suga.
Worse
Oh,
on
okay.
every level.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What I mean was like, there was nobody, but not Trump. That's why people vote for him.
Yeah.
Right.
But even worse because people, the Suga is like a disappointment. Like people are like, oh, you didn't do a good job. Next. Trump is like a demon. Like people hated him. Like, so it's
Yeah, what I mean is, Biden is like a Suga.
Yeah, Biden, he's not even a Suga. I best of luck to the Biden administration. I voted for Biden. I hope that he does a good job. But he's really, how can I say this? Like, you looked at the two candidates and you're like, 4 more years of this crazy person. Or, I mean, Biden's kind of grandpa. He's really old. I don't know how much he understands what's going on. But like, at least he's not
rude.
Trump. No, it's true. There are times where you're just like, Biden, you okay, buddy? We'll take a little break, have a seat, have some coffee. I mean, how old is he? He's like 90 or something.
No, 70 something, right?
70, how old is he?
76.
He's 78 years old.
78,
okay.
right. He's the oldest president was ever. Actually, the two of them, that election was like the oldest. But
Yeah, Trump was 75 years old, so
Oh,
he
okay.
wasn't too much younger.
Oh, okay.
Right.
He looks younger than 75.
well, money. But anyway, so that's the thing is like when that election happened, it was like you either like Trump and you want Trump to be your president or you don't want Trump to be your president. No one voted for Biden. People voted against Trump.
Okay. Well, the reason why I asked you why, people, young generation in America go to vote is because Japanese election system, we cannot choose prime minister.
Right. We choose the government, the diet, and then they choose the prime minister.
Right. And then the problem is we don't go to vote. So, the diet member, only, old generation pick them. That's the Japanese big problem.
Yeah.
But, so, young generation, including like 30s, don't know the differences. Of course, some people knows, but like,
I was amongst friends, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or something like that. And I just asked everybody, like privately, I was like, do you know the name of the prime minister right now?
oh, okay.
And there were people in their 30s and 40s who did not know who the prime minister was.
You mean he couldn't answer like
Suga, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
Really?
it's like, yeah, because they don't
That's
care.
dumb.
They don't care. They don't care.
They don't care. Maybe.
If you get a head concussion in America, one of the very first things that they ask you is, what year is it? Who's the president of the United States? And if you can't answer that, they know there's something wrong with your brain.
Oh,
But like in Japan, people just don't give a fuck. So they
right.
don't know
That's
who
a
it is.
big problem.
But seriously, Suga, I mean, like, if you point at one thing that Suga has done, what has he done?
He did something great.
What?
I cannot tell. It was on the news and I was like, oh yeah, that's what he did. But let me Google it.
You forgot?
I forgot.
Yes, Josh.
What did he do?
According to Wikipedia, he does 200 sit-ups a day. I think that's pretty cool.
So he's one punch man, basically.
Yeah, it says he goes for a 40-minute walk and does 100 sit-ups in the morning and 100 sit-ups in
That's
the
why he sucks at
in
his job. He's just exercising all day. He's not doing shit. Suga's the idiot who's
he
like,
did so. Oh, okay, he made a digital department.
oh yeah, let's talk about this, guys. So we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in the future. But they made a it's not department. There's a word for this. Agency. They made
Agency.
a digital agency. Think about it as like an agency to deal with the digitization of Japan, right? Oh God, they had this graphic on this press conference where they're explaining this. They're like, the internet right now, when you connect to from business to business, you go from one business server over the internet to another business server. And they're like, I swear to God, guys, they're like, this is inefficient. And we're going to fix this by and they have like this icon for the digital agency who's like this like middleman. So from now on, all businesses will connect to this digital agency and then that will connect you to, and you're like, what? You just added an extra step. And they're like, and it's going to fix everything. And you're like, you guys have no idea how the internet works. Like, this is amazing.
And one more thing, he made cell phone companies. He he made cell phone companies to decrease their telephone fee. We can use telephone fee cheaper than ever, right? Right? That's what like Suga did.
Suga, thank you. Thank you, Suga. We'll miss you. We will miss you. Suga, thank you. No, I don't know. It's a different job. Like, we often think about, the top of the country because we see it on TV all the time. The president of the United States is a really powerful position. But the prime minister in Japan, I'm wondering if they do anything. I mean, do they have any power? Like,
Yeah, that's understandable. Like, maybe some powerful guy is, behind him and then, like marionette. Do you understand what I mean?
They're puppet master.
Yeah, puppet master.
I don't know. Good luck, Japan. I'm really, because over the pandemic, Japan spent a lot of money. And if you guys know anything about the economy in Japan, their debt to GDP ratio is very, very high. They have a huge internal debt. I mean, this is a problem for almost all Western countries. Like, America has a big debt. European countries have big debt. But the Japanese debt is incredibly big, their internal debt. And so, and this increased by a lot in the last couple of years. And so whoever is in charge of the government going forward is going to have a very difficult time. And so we need really strong leadership going forward. And I'm not sure Mr. Vaccine Kono is the guy we want for this job. Going to send everybody a piece of paper to tell him thank you for electing him prime minister.
He graduated from American University.
Don't care.
Columbia?
Don't care.
I can't remember the name.
Maybe he'll be good. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe the problem with the vaccine rollout wasn't his issue. It was something I don't know. But I'm kind of hoping that one of these women become prime minister just to do it because it's never happened before.
But I worried, if one of them become a first female prime minister, maybe some powerful girl is behind them, and then they just become like a
puppet. Well, we'll see. Let's really look forward to the political future of this country. I don't know, guys. I that's why I just tend to ignore it. I'm like, whatever. One thing I'll tell you though, no matter in America, for example, if the government gets really bad, you can really feel it in the whole country. The mood in the country changes. In Japan, it doesn't really change. It doesn't matter who's in charge. Everybody just kind of keeps doing whatever they were doing before.
Yeah, it's not going to change. Maybe a little change, but not big, impact.
Yeah, it's not huge. So that's good. So, I don't know. All right, guys, this has been our show for this week. This has been the news topics. If you guys want us to talk about anything or is there some news that we missed, let us know in the comments below. If you have something to your opinion about one of the stories that we talked about today, we talked about a lot. We talked about the harassment of disabled people, the people who are oldest population, volcanoes, and Mr. Kono. Also the TikToker America-kun. You guys have anything to say? And also, what do you guys think? I told you Natsuki can talk.
Thank you.
Got her own voice. Get her drunk, man. Then she won't stop.
Give me beer.
Give me beer. All right, guys, it's been our show today. See you guys next week.
Bye.